What's up, YouTube? My name is Rob with Usabi Limited. I'm sure over the past few days you guys have heard what's going on. There have been riots in the streets, literal police stations have been burned to the ground, and there have been quite a few murders that have made national news. George Floyd and a woman named Breonna Taylor, both black people, were murdered at the hands of the police. There has been a very, very vocal and occasionally, or more than occasionally, violent response to this. Now, a lot of people are getting angry at the protesters and saying that it's anarchy and saying that it's completely out of control. I have an experience with these protesters that was literally the opposite of that. Not only was it peaceful, but I would say it was almost joyous.
Yeah, stop playing on my top. Yeah, we made history with this. Ocala, Florida. Ocala, Florida. We made history. We made history with this. We made history, baby. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
So the catalyst for all this was George Floyd, and then the icing on the cake was Breonna Taylor. I think the black community and liberals, everyone kind of just had the same idea at the same time and took to the streets and just got really angry. We have seen this play out 1,000 times. Police officer murders someone on camera, and there's plenty of evidence that they were completely in the wrong, and they get acquitted. And then there's no justice, and everybody sits there and says, oh, well, the police do such a good job, and they're not being held accountable for this very obviously insane behavior. So I heard the protests were happening. I picked up my camera, I loaded the batteries, and it's funny because one of the batteries was dead from me using it like half an hour earlier. I didn't even know the protests were happening until I happened to get a call from Blake's mom. And so I grabbed my like brick battery, plugged it into my camera, and charged it on the way there, and kind of charged it as I was going. And yeah, it was really tense at first, I'm not gonna lie. And then what kind of ended up happening was suddenly I think it was tense at first because everyone was unsure of what was going on, but they knew they were angry and they knew they wanted change. And so everyone's out there shouting and all of that stuff. And tensions got even more high because there was this riffraff dude. He was this total jackass and total just, I mean, he was a goon. Sole purpose there was to start trouble. And everyone there, people were like, ignore him. And there were some protesters who, I fall under this category, to tell you the truth, where if somebody's engaging me, until they get violent, I mean, even no matter how many insults they throw at me, I mean, I'm going to be sitting here talking to you and being like, and I'm just going to have to try to be the bigger man and be like, look, I believe that this is a fundamental human right because this, or that. And that's what I saw this other person doing. And I guess he said something else inflammatory because people were so pissed off at him by the time we got to Route 40 when everyone was going to kneel for 8 minutes and stop traffic. The police were very calm and they were telling everyone, hey, look, back up. This is not worth it. I mean, it's just one guy and he's being a jerk. And the protesters were like, yeah, it is just one guy being a jerk. And they just kind of like dissipated. And I mean, this guy continued. And people would be like, what are you doing? Why are you here? So eventually we made it back to the square, which is where all the cool bars and restaurants are in Ocala. It's kind of like the literal center of town. City Hall is like right around the corner. And so, yeah, we were in the square and the guy makes the move. And it's interesting. Everybody kind of like stopped. It's kind of weird because like I didn't know what he did, and I don't think a lot of people knew what he did, but like everyone kind of just like turned at once, and suddenly the police jumped on top of him and tackled him to the ground, and everybody at that moment, simultaneously as he was struggling, held their breath. The second he stopped, they put handcuffs on him, brought him back up, everyone cheered and knew that like that had set the tone. That in retrospect really did set the tone. The cops were like, no, we're here for you. You guys have a right as Americans for freedom of speech. The number one amendment of all time. Why this country was built. Because you have a right to protest. And even had a police officer come up and say that much to the protesters. Not every police department has behaved like this. So the fact that Ocala PD, police force doing their job, I mean, it's such a low bar, but I do have to say, shout out to OPD. You guys were really great. And I hope policing like this continues in the future because you will literally be a huge example to set for the rest of the country. And that's a really big deal.
I walk with you. You walk with me. I walk with you. You walk with me. I walk with you. I walk with you. Black lives. All lives. No justice. No justice. No justice. No justice. No peace. Black lives. All lives. All lives. All lives. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. I walk with you. You walk with me. 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 No justice. No peace. No peace. No peace. No peace.
I mean, there was constant honking.
You walk with me. You walk with me. You walk with me. You walk with me.
What was interesting is black, white, Asian. I mean, there were people of all ages, mainly young, but it was interesting. There were like a bunch of old retired Florida boomers out too, like old white people marching as well. And it really just goes to show how much the conversation has changed.
They doing a great job. Thank you for helping us across the road. Thank you for letting us get across the road safely. That way we can go safely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
This is me just trying my best to be an ally without overtaking the message. I hope I didn't speak for too long, but I did feel like I wanted to just include that story about riffraff, idiot, him getting arrested. I did want to point out that someone did try to get violent and someone did try to absolutely sabotage the protest, and no one was having it. Hopefully other police and sheriff departments will learn this lesson, or they fire all of them and just hire new people. A little mini rant aside. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you next Thursday.